Hi, everyone. Welcome to a video brought to you by the teams of JetRails and Collins Harper. Uh, I'm Robert Rand, a Magento 1 and 2 solution specialist with several years of experience in overseeing Magento website projects. I'm here with Tom Pachalski, representing the JetRails team, as well as Simon Chan and Alex Pavlotsky from the Collins Harper team. Gentlemen, let's start off with some quick introductions. Simon?
Well, thank you, Robert. Thank you, Tom. Thanks for the warm introduction. Hello, everyone. My name is Simon Chan. I'm VP of Business Development here at Collins Harper, and I have joining me from my team, Alex, who heads up project management. Sorry.
Thank you, Alex Pavlotsky here, Collins Harper, head of project management, gazillion of years in payments, all sorts of electronic payments and card present, card not present projects with Visa and a bunch of other partners. Rob?
All right. And Tom?
Oh, yes. This is Tom. I'm Tom with the JetRails team. I have spent probably about 5 years working with clients and development partners just to make sure that everything's moving in the right direction for all parties. So I get kind of involved in a lot of the technical aspects and also a little bit on the sales side too.
Awesome. And Tom, can you tell us a little bit more about JetRails as well?
Yeah, of course. So not to make this too long because this is supposed to be informational, but JetRails, we provide white glove, fully managed hosting solutions. We do that on dedicated servers or on AWS. And I think probably the biggest thing, we specialize in making sure to provide support, the support that everyone might be lacking. So typically we will answer the phones within 10 seconds. We don't use any kind of automated answering services, and we like to be connected with our clients. So.
Awesome. And, so with that, you're going to be hearing on today's video, a bit of a conversation about going from Magento 1 and deciding when to go to Magento 2 and what that path looks like. We're thankful to have the Collins Harper team here with us who are helping merchants to do that day in and day out. And so some of the areas that we want to make sure to cover for you today are going to dive into why folks are going in the way that they're going from 1 to 2, what that process looks like, what the benefits are, and talk maybe a little bit about some of the actual case studies around that. So to dive right in, let's talk a little bit about some of the upcoming end-of-life dates that are going to affect Magento 1 merchants. I'm certainly keeping an eye on Magento's own end of life for Magento 1, which is going to come up in June of 2020. So that's going to be the big date that everyone's watching for. That's when you're going to stop getting security patches and software updates. That's when you're going to really have to, be worried as a merchant about the security and the safety of your website and being sort of left proverbially up a creek without a paddle. What are some of the other dates that you gentlemen are seeing, merchants need to keep an eye on? And are there already some things that are happening in the Magento 1 ecosystem that merchants need to be addressing if they're staying on Magento 1 for the time being?
And I think that those are excellent questions. I will lean very hard on Alex here to provide some insight on that. Certainly, what we've noticed is a lot of merchants, they have been, I guess you could say, they've been trying to delay, as much as they can, the migration, because obviously they've spent considerable amount of money on the development of Magento 1, and businesses, they're not in the business of updating websites. They need the functional website to run a business. So, but with that being said, Alex has seen a lot. He's he's highly technical. Yeah, Alex.
Thank you. Well,
Actually, Alex, before you begin, Alex, I got a
yeah,
quick
Thomas.
question too. That's part of that whole topic. So we get a lot of phone calls here with people that just need help, and whenever I go and look at these Magento installations, I'm noticing that, and by the way, these are relatively large installations. They're missing security patches. They're still on PHP
Yikes.
5.6. That was end of life last year, right?
Right,
So
right.
we're 2019 now. What's going on with that? How can these huge enterprise businesses let that happen?
Well, I've seen it. I've seen it all. You probably, Thomas, also. I can tell you that we see it day in and day out. First of all, M1 and M2. So Magento 1, I call it M1 for short. M2 is Magento 2. Completely different products. It's not like Windows 98 and Windows XP. It's like M1 is DOS and M2 is Windows 10. So what works for Magento 1 will not work on Magento 2 unless there is a copy of this developed specifically for Magento 2. To answer your question, very good question, how do people get stuck on Magento 1? So first of all, to lead off from what Robert has started, people, the end of life is 2020. First of all, so we got 1 year. We're in 2019 right now. We got 1 year to go. In 2020, Magento will stop supporting Magento 1 product. They developed and invested a lot of time and effort to develop their Magento 2, and that's the only thing that they promote. That's the only platform. They got Magento Marketplace now. It's like an app store where they put all the extensions developed for Magento 2. And one they don't want to see no more. They will stop support it. It's problematic. It's buggy. They will stop supporting it, issuing security patches and updates, which opens up the whole world of potential vulnerabilities, hackers stealing your customer data, messing up your website, and et cetera, et cetera. So, Tom, to answer your question about the why people get stuck on M1, on Magento 1 and older PHPs, is because we see a lot of medium and large companies invest hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for the largest examples of dollars on their website, and it works with the version of PHP that they have and with the setup that they have. And because the sites are so complex, if they change one little thing, like a PHP version, 10 other things will stop working. It's a domino effect. It's like Jenga. The big giant Jenga with 50,000 pieces. You put one piece or change the size of it, the position slightly, and the whole thing collapses. And that's what we see all the time. So they come to us. A lot of smarter guys come to us and say, "Look, it's time. We know about the end of day 2020. We want to update now," and we tell them it's going to take them 2 months to do it because a lot of the third-party extensions that they use for shipping, for discounts, for emailing, for marketing, for product categories, for updating the database, their checkout flow, half of this stuff is not working on Magento 2, and we have to either recode it or repackage it for M2 or find other extensions that do work. What's your experience, Tom, with such moves from M1 to M2? What are you facing as the biggest difficulty, and timelines as well on your end?
So the biggest difficulty is, we proactively reach out to all of our clients on a monthly basis, and we're always making sure to let them know, hey, listen, guys, this patch came out, or this is important, or you should do this or that. And the hardest thing is sometimes to make sure we're on the same timeline as the company is on. Now, on the other side of things, we do work with some amazing companies that are on the ball. And what they'll do is they have a process for production where they do development in dev, then they push to staging, they go through UAT, then they push to production, and then they also have on the side something for Magento 2 as well. So they prioritize their time to also work on the future and also the site that's live right now. So I like that, but to get everybody to do that and make sure they follow these timelines that are really important, that could be a challenge because we're talking to a business. There are politics in place, money. Money is obviously a big deal. So I think those are the biggest challenges. But I actually have one question that has to do with this. Now, security is a big deal, right? And we get a lot of calls about security. So
It's huge.
it's huge. So there is a patch right now for PHP 7.2 and Magento 1. So fill us in a little bit on why people aren't actively working on that.
Oh, easy. There's a patch for PHP 7, right? Some people, as you know, because you do a lot of migrations on your end as well, they get stuck on PHP 5, PHP 6. And so all the new patches are coming for the latest, assuming that you have upgraded already to PHP 7. But a lot of the databases and extensions that they have for M1 working with a specific version of PHP, when you change it, it all collapses. So they cannot apply this patch even if they want to, because they have to upgrade the PHP first in order to apply this patch. So that opens up the whole world of fraud and theft and security issues. So it costs about, to migrate from our perspective, it could cost 2 months, 50, 60 grand for a medium-sized site from M1 to M2. What is the cost of your client data being stolen? You know, you got 20,000 customers, 30,000 customers, or chargebacks that you have, and your payment processor is shutting you down later on because of you got 20-25% chargebacks from months to months when the norm is below 1% for many industries.
And what's the damage to your brand, to your reputation, to your customer list when you have a breach or some sort of issue? Absolutely. And we're maybe looking at one timeline for moving from M1 to M2, but what do you guys think that this is going to look like for the folks that still hold out and wait until 2020? Basically say, I'm going to keep driving my old car. It's getting me to and from, and I don't want a new car payment yet, which is respectable. But what do you think it's going to look like, come 2020 with that end of life really looming?
Robert, I think it's
go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. Well, what I wanted to say was just real quick. It could get messy, but for those who are going to ride this out, they need to take care of their environment and lock it down. Lock it down. You'd be surprised as to how many people will fill out a form on our site. I'll go and take a look at it, and their VAR folder's open, or their admin panel is just right there, and no 2FA. Least privilege access, people. Lock things down. So if you're going to continue down this path and kind of ride this out until 2020, make sure you talk to a pro to hide everything so that you don't get hacked. Because what you don't realize is you might be a business, like you might sell pet food, for example, right? Well, you don't think that your competitors are fierce, that they're going to go out there and try to hijack your site. And that might be true, but what some companies don't understand is there is automation in place to find you. They don't care that you sell pet food. They don't care at all. They don't even care who you are. They just want to find that admin panel. They want to get in. They want to get to your files and suck out your information. So it's all automated. So I'd like to just say, make sure to lock everything down and find professional help to do that.
I think that's really well said, Tom. Alex, I'll let you go, but one thing that we had discussed that when everybody waits till the end, the developers might be too busy, and you're gonna get a big flood of people in panics. I know that Robert, you used the car analogy, and I'm overdue for an oil change myself, and it's kind of like I can't keep driving on the car until I get that oil change, and I'm kind of feeling the pressure right now. So, Alex, what are you seeing out there?
Yeah, well, I see we are already working 2019 is busy for us. We are hiring additional developers to cover the anticipated rush. So we anticipate a lot of people wait until the last minute of 2019, and then when they get the final notice from Magento that they don't support Magento 1 anymore, then you will see a rush of it. Don't wait until then, because everybody will be busy. I'm not talking about Collins Harper specifically, or JetRails for that matter, but everybody, because normally people procrastinate. What smart people do is they get in early, because it takes 2-3 months to do that migration. It's not as simple as move from one server to another. You need to recode a few things and find new extensions and reconfirm the flow from Magento 1 to Magento 2. So it takes 2-3 months to do it. On a medium-sized site, for large enterprise level, it takes a little bit longer. So don't wait, because not only because it will take 2-3 months, but also because everybody in the industry at the end of 2019 will be swamped with work, and that could also alter the price as well, demand and supply. So therefore, don't open up yourself to vulnerabilities if you don't want to be known as Ashley Madison.
Yeah. So for the Collins Harper team now, another question I have as far as performance. So you guys deal with some larger clients. What are the discussions like when it comes to the speed of my website? Is that a common discussion that you're having with them?
Oh, big time. So for example, we got a very good client, Image3D. We got a couple of others that we helped migrate to JetRails. Why? Because of scalability, especially during the high season. Image3D, for example, is the company that is more seasonal in terms of their sales. They're around the holidays and Christmas time, and their sales go tenfold in the holiday season. So they needed scalability. They needed multiple servers in order to manage that flood of orders and work, and their site is quite complex. So what we send business to JetRails just because of your support, infrastructure, and scalability. And you said, Thomas, that you respond, and I've seen it firsthand within 15, 20 minutes, not just with, yes, we received your message, but hi, we received your message, this is the fix. So you actually respond with some actionable items, and you get most of the time things done. That's why I feel comfortable just dealing with you guys, because you get the job done. The different, server is a server is a server. It's a big box, sometimes smaller box. So there's no difference between them. What differentiates one company from another is support you get. So you go to one company, you send them a question, and you wait 3 days to respond, and your site is down for 3 days, and you're losing $10,000 in the meantime. You guys get things done.
Well, we appreciate that. And you know what? I didn't want there to be any kind of, I wanted this to be really conversational, and we appreciate the plug, but we don't want this to be like a presentation on sales, but I want to emphasize
facts only, no sales. Factual
yes,
data.
But we do appreciate it. And one of the things I wanted to touch on was the performance side of things. So there are many different conversations that are had out there. And how do I say this? There's clients that talk about different technologies like Varnish, full page cache. Do we have to be on AWS, like this magical thing, which AWS is awesome, right? But what about those who might not necessarily, maybe they can't afford AWS at the moment, because that does tend to get pricey if you're utilizing their services properly. So what happens with clients that are on bare metal machines, and it's October and November's coming, or actually right now, let's talk about now, Valentine's Day is coming. So we've got clients that are on bare metal machines and they're selling flowers. So what do they do when they start to promote and there's a whole flood of traffic that's about to come? Well, scalability, as you mentioned, by adding what we call booster servers, we can add 1, 2, 3, 4 servers to someone's environment without any maintenance, to be able to handle that flood of traffic, keep costs down, and then when that's all over with, remove those extra systems that were put in there. So that's one way of doing it. And that kind of touches on on Image 3D, as you mentioned earlier, because they went through a similar process. But what about the clients that aren't aware of that? Like, there needs to be a little bit of education. We need to teach the people who are out there searching that AWS is not always the best choice for their installation, because that's a topic that's coming to me time and time again. Hey, I want to be on AWS, and I ask them one question, like, well, tell me why. And the answer, guess what the answer is, guys? What do you think the answer is?
Cheap, scalability, costs.
Yeah, because it's cheap and it's this magical thing. We're just going to put our site in and it's going to work. And you know what? That's not the case, because you can. Is AWS cheap? Yeah, it is. If you go and get it like an EC2 or whatever, you put it right there. It's not going to help the site, right? You need to have Aurora RDS. You need to have, I mean, I'm not going to get technical, but you need to build it out in the right way. And typically the right way is about 3 times more costly than a dedicated machine. But why? Like, does the business have predictable traffic spikes, or is it unpredictable? And then when I ask that question, their response is, well, yeah, it's actually very predictable. And after looking at the Google Analytics, we'll see that those spikes that they have that they think are astronomical, they're actually big. They generate a lot of revenue, but those spikes aren't big enough to justify the auto scaling, because you can take another bare metal machine, add it to their platform just temporarily to handle that, and then remove it. So why spend all that extra money on AWS? And once they get educated on that, and they understand that, yes, it is a shiny, awesome object, but is it necessary? Well, no, I don't have to spend 3 times the amount that I'm spending now for that one moment. So I just wanted to mention that it's about educating everybody. And yes, AWS is awesome, but it takes it's for the right clients.
Well said.
And, we've talked a little bit about security, for M1 users. Two-factor authentication came up. Any thoughts on CDN technology and using a WAF, using a firewalling tech, coming, right through your CDN or third-party provider to give you that extra layer of security while you're still in M1 or M2?
I think that's meant for me, right?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. So this is a big topic, and I'll just say it like this: whatever you're doing, protect your installation first and foremost. So don't let the world know where the origin is. Protect that IP. So a great service is Cloudflare, right? You point your DNS, goes right to Cloudflare. No one knows where you are. No one knows how to get to your system. And you can challenge different countries, right? So let's say the common one, right? I'm not pointing fingers at any particular countries, but there are countries overseas that tend to attack the United States of America digitally.
No joke.
So what do you do? So do you have your web host block IPs as they come? That's inefficient, right? Your system's already getting pounded, so why not hit it off at the pass? Why not just press a button? Let's say you sell shoes, and you only sell shoes in the United States of America, Canada, and maybe a little bit of Mexico. Do you really need your website to be visible and accessible in Africa? You don't. But if you know that all the attacks stem from, they start in Africa, block out the whole country. So that's where a partner like Cloudflare, which we're heavily involved with, Cloudflare can do that. And that's just one aspect of it.
And I definitely want to make sure that we touch on your hosting as you go from Magento 1 to 2, because we've seen folks try to launch their M2 sites in their existing M1 hosting accounts, just thinking Magento's Magento. And as we've heard, one of the bigger tripping points, for the migration is that it's really it's a rebuild. You're going from one platform to another. They both have, the Magento logo on them, but they're distinctive platforms.
No, it's like DOS and Windows. I'm telling you, it's so much different.
Yeah.
It's a different product altogether.
Well, and it gets sometimes even really precise, because, for instance, if you're on Magento 2.1, you need to be in a PHP 7.0 environment. If you're on Magento 2.2, it's PHP 7.1. Magento 2.3, PHP 7.2. So it's interesting. Have you, Alex, seen folks have any launch issues trying to get through some of the M2 optimization of their hosting?
Yeah, every single time. They, as Thomas has alluded, that sometimes they try to launch the M2 issue with the exact same configuration on their hosting provider. And Thomas is laughing because he's seen it probably more than once. We too, as we migrate. So with the migration from M1 to M2, it's a different platform altogether. Again, they slapped a Magento platform on it, but it's like, a BMW brand produces motorcycles, cars, and SUVs. So it's like motorcycle versus your sports car. So it's different. It's different. 2 wheels, 4 wheels. So you gotta adapt the hosting environment as well. And Tom, can you tell everybody, us here in the audience who's listening in, what are the challenges and requirements are on M2 that are not evident on M1, and why people should actually move or configure their hosting when they switch the site as well, not just run it on the same server as before? Give us some insight on this.
Yeah, so I can get into several different aspects of this, but I think it all boils down to one thing that's the most important thing, and that is there has to be synergy, the partnership, and the communication between the agency that's creating and the host, and also the client. All 3 of those, it's like this trifecta. If they're not all in line and in tune with each other 100%, and I mean 100%, because there are things in the industry that I see all the time, like, hey, the client's going, I sent them this support ticket, I sent it to my hosting company, and their answer was bad, or hey, I've got this issue with my developer, and I don't know what to do. Like, do I switch developers? Well, no. Hold on a second. Are they all talking to each other? And the answer I always get is, well, no. Let me give you an example. And again, I'm not going to name any names, but I had a potential prospect that we could potentially work with, call me up while I was on vacation. And what did they say to me? They're like, man, I got this issue with my hosting. The website keeps going down. I don't know what to do. Can you get me migrated right away? And I'm going, okay, let me just look at this real quick. And boom, 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 I get in there. I start seeing some of the error codes. And the errors that I'm seeing are actually not caused by the host, even though the messaging that's displayed, it says issue resolving host or whatever the case may be. It was actually not that at all. It was an issue they had with their configuration with their CDN. So what I said was, look, rather than putting you through the ringer and having to do this entire migration of flipping platforms, they had a big sale that they were running that week. I said, let me give your hosting provider a quick call. Let's get you on the line with us together. Let me just share with them what I found. Let's walk this out. Let's walk through this, and you can continue to generate revenue. Now, if they're not capable of fixing that for you at that point in time, we can talk a little bit further, but let's not complicate this. Let's fix the problem right now so you can take care of customers. So we did that. We got them in touch, and you know how it goes. I'll tell you like this. When you call up your competitor and you say, hey, Mr. Competitor, this client needs some help. Can you help them? Guess what they do? Right away, they're on it. They're helping them. They're trying to make things right, and they did. And where am I going with this? You asked me a very direct question earlier. What do I see? What do you do? Communicate with the agency. Make sure that there's a one client area, so to say, where everybody can communicate together, and so it's all transparent, because we're here to all help each other. What's missing right now out there in 2019? People. Everybody's got technology. You've got AWS, you got servers, you got the internet, you got the wires to connect, you got wireless to connect, you got progressive web apps, you got all sorts of Varnish, FPCs, you got all these different technologies. Here's a company specializing in this, here's a company specializing in that. How do you cut through the clutter? You cut through the clutter by connecting the three professionals together that know what they're doing, and then you create the solution. Because as we all know, each Magento installation is unique. What's going to work for one isn't going to work for the other. You can't take a generic hosting solution and throw even if it's a Magento specific solution, you can't just take a site and throw it in and expect it to work. Because what's going to happen, when I see it time and time again, the agency is pointing fingers at the hosting provider, and the hosting provider is going, no, you got to fix this to be compatible with us. And I see this all the time. There's no need for that. We're in 2019. Let's work together and create that solution that works for that client. So without getting too technical, that's what I wanted to resonate with our audience. You got to have a team, no matter if you're with Nexus, Mage Mojo, whether you're with Collins Harper, whatever, whoever you're working with on the agency or hosting side, get that trifecta going.
Well, and you have to take advantage of the knowledge that's out there on the market. So, when you go from Magento 1 to Magento 2, you have options. Like if you're a bigger enterprise, you might leverage some database sharding and separate out your checkout, your order and your general database items. But for most users, that's not going to make sense. That's just going to be excessive. So you've got new bells and whistles. You've got things that are going to help your organization. With M2, you can be, pushing updates through Composer. There are going to be, new things that you can take advantage of. And, for instance, M2 is built to work with Varnish for caching. So you might want to change up the caching system that you've historically used, switch over to Varnish. That there are ways of making that, easier and faster for you. So from my perspective, it's really all about, at this point, M2's been out for years, taking advantage of what we do know, what we do have as a community, as an ecosystem, and, building from there up. And, I'd say we're coming up on time. So any parting thoughts from the group?
Don't wait, guys. So really for anybody who's done in one, seriously, don't wait till 2019, because very few people will be able to help you then. Help yourself now. Get yourself in right now, because there will be a few weeks of estimation, a couple of months of work. So budget it in. Right now, don't wait until Magento cuts you off with all the and leaving you vulnerable, because your brand and everything you've been working on to build your brand, your store, will be exposed to the 4 cardinal winds of change. Don't leave yourself exposed.
Well said. What I wanted to just quickly drop in there, for those watching, whether you are an executive, whether you are an agency, whether you are, a marketing person with your company, it doesn't matter what your role is. If everybody has their own point of view as to what the next steps should be, and I think with the experience here, we've got, if you add up all of our experience, I'm not even gonna count how many years it is, but you've got a lot of experience here. I invite anybody for a conversation to just hash things out and bounce some ideas off of us, whether they're environmental, whether they're just related to having a second look at site design and code, whether you just need a little bit of assistance with anything. I would say reach out to us. We all work together as a team. I'm not going to charge anything to chat with somebody. I'm not going to sell anything. If they just want to talk, I'll be happy to share my experiences, because I'm sure Simon, I'm sure Alex, you guys you've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly, right?
So true.
A lot of people haven't. Think about it. We do this every single day, day in and day out. So we've got stories to share. But for that marketing manager that just got brought in, and they're working on their responsibility is to help crank in the web visitors. Maybe they don't know what's about to happen. maybe they have a lot of pressure from their boss, give us a call. Let's chat. Let's prepare you for what you're about to experience so that we can actually make you guys rock stars. So I won't charge anything for it. I just open invitation for anybody who's watching this video. Call us up. We'll be happy to guide you in the right direction.
Yeah, Tom has a point. You don't have to be technical to talk to us. We talk English and a bunch of other languages.
We speak merchant.
We speak merchant.
Excellent.
Right on.
Yeah, well said.
Yeah. So
Awesome. Well, if you found this video to be helpful, we certainly appreciate if you want to, share it, like it, follow us on social media, join our newsletters. We'll be sure to share some helpful links in the comments below the video. So feel free to take advantage of any of those other helpful tidbits and freebies and such that we can share with you. And we look forward to joining you for another video soon.
awesome. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.